Hello everybody. Today I wanted to share something new that I started doing, and I began in my platform of subscription, which is Patreon. And it is this desire that I started to have, this calling for sharing my own experience in various topics, because I started to realize how helpful this has been for me in the past, meaning me listening to other people share their own experiences, people that I follow, people that I resonate with, and that I understand their philosophy. And I realized actually that I haven't been doing this because I never considered that my experience was that impactful, maybe for people. And yet that was just a limiting belief, which is something that I talk about in this video that I just posted on my Patreon. And yeah, I just simply realized that this can be helpful to especially the people that follow me and that have an affinity for my message and my philosophy and the way I make sense of reality. So within this whole idea, I decided to create these videos, and I decided to open also this with my biggest catalyst, that has been perhaps all of my life, at least since I started becoming independent and working, which is financial stability. Something that I know that a lot of people struggle with. And we, in this path of spirituality, we start to develop an idea that we can have the reality that we want and that we can produce a lot of money. And to me, it hasn't been about that. It's just about being happy and content with the current situation that we have. And this obviously goes hand in hand with my teachings of simply being and being happy and in harmony with what we have. So, but to me, it has been a process, because I have been conditioned, and I think all of us have. We have been conditioned for all of our lives to have a sort of relationship with money and to be dependent on money in a certain way. So I decided to open this series of videos in which I'm sharing my own experiences in Patreon, with the biggest catalyst that, again, is financial stability for me. And I went on to explain a lot of things of my past and how I have seen this come up in this, let's just call it, process of walking this path, and how I deal with them, how I use this knowledge of self-realization, this knowledge of the self, to deal with this, and how it just naturally happens to. So I gave that whole explanation there, or that whole story, and I wanted to share some clips here that I put in together. And if you stay until the end, you will listen to me again, where I'll talk to you more about this initiative and what I want to try in Patreon, the ideas that I have there. So, but first, let me show you the clips that I have. So let's go watch that. To make a long story short, I decided to make this leap into the service of simply making videos and sharing myself. And I have been discovering a lot of, what do they call it? Limited beliefs, or beliefs of limitation. I forget the term. I know in Spanish is creencias limitantes, which is just that those beliefs that you have that limit you. These limiting beliefs, they came from, of course, my family. You relate totally with your family and your environment and the culture in which you lived. Some of you may know that I was raised in Venezuela when I was probably 5 years old, because I was born in the US, in Florida, in Gainesville, if you want to know. Gainesville, Florida. I was born there, and at the age of 5, I returned with my parents and my brothers back to Venezuela, and I was raised there until I was 23 when I came back to the US. That's a whole story in and of itself, but yeah, I'm an 80s, 90s kid. Decided to come back in the early 2000s, 2005. But I was raised in a country that was going from, it was going downhill really fast. And mostly I feel that this fear of not having enough for the month. That's what I would call it. Always checking, how's my bank account? Do I have enough to pay everything? Did I spend too much? All of this fear came from my own family, my parents who lived this way, just paying, living paycheck by paycheck. You see, and sometimes my dad would switch jobs or get fired, or he would always get fired because he didn't want to quit, so he would start doing things that people would question, and then he'd get fired. I became like that. I was working living paycheck by paycheck, and always thinking about, how much do I have? Do I have enough? Okay, I do have enough. And of course, the fluctuation in life is always like you have this much and then you have this little. It's never the same, right? So that's why I kind of felt very secure in my corporate job, because it provided me with more than enough. Actually, no, that's a whole story. It didn't provide me with more than enough. I rented a room in my old house, the house that I bought, and that helped me out a lot. So yeah, at this point, I started to see that my fear was of not having enough for the month, but I've never had that issue. You see, when I look back, I see that I've never had that issue. So it's just a fear that is present there. And I started to notice this fear as something that would dictate and control my emotions at the moment. It's almost like a thrill that you get, at the end of the month, and seeing, or throughout the month, and thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? But somehow, and again, this goes into the whole details of my family right now and how I have been able to deal with this, which it's not relevant. But yeah, it's been a way for me to figure out and get pushed actually to start doing this work, to help people more direct, as opposed to just making videos, which is not enough. It's just not enough. The other thing is fear of failure. That's another one that came up, and I realized that there's a big fear of failure that was in my life. And what if I do this and people don't care, or what if people stop supporting me, or what if people whatever, if you say this, or people are going to stop listening to you, or whatever it is. It's just, there's a fear of failure that is there. And I know it's just silly, but you see, it was attached to me. It was part of me. So this started to come up as well. This came throughout my whole dedication for the past 3, almost 4 years, that I've been dedicating myself exclusively to creating content for people on the internet, just opening myself basically. So there was a lot of this fear of failure, and I can still feel it, because I'll explain why this is a phenomenon that doesn't go away right away, and how this direct path of realization, self-realization, resolves basically all of this from the roots, and yet you can still feel the fear. And the last one that I have is the worth of, it's actually my own worth. Like, am I worth it? Am I worthy of this? And that's, I put it as the worth of my content. So all of this is a voice. It's, again, I wouldn't call it a fear, but it's just a self-deprecated speech that is in your mind. And I really don't know where this comes from. I don't really care. We don't care about this in the direct path. We only care about those things that are surfacing out. And so once they surface, and I'll tie in with everything, how this all works out. But the last thing that I wanted to share is this, how it all ties in with my process. I talked already about the fear, you see, that I have, these fears that are present in my conditioned mind. So they sort of emerge, but because I cannot relate to that, to it, meaning that I cannot associate myself with an entity that is the person having the fear. They're weak. They're only there as a sort of like when you remember something and you don't have an emotional attachment, but you used to have an emotional attachment. You see, like you broke up with somebody or you had a fight, and every time you thought about it, you had this emotional reaction. But when you break away from this is what we do in the direct path, by you recognizing who you are and what you are. And that's why I don't have an interest in all of these manifestation, law of attraction, abundance, and books and videos and gurus and teachers of how to make money and all these things. I have zero interest, because I am fine in the way I am, and I know that regardless, like life has proved to me over and over that it doesn't matter what happens, I'm always fine. You see, so this detachment is not a lack of responsibility or a lack, obviously, of wanting to do things. It's an impossibility to associate yourself with the character that was involved with the emotions and the fear. So now the fears, say, of not having enough for the month, they show up as a memory. Like I said, you may remember somebody who you had a fight with and was very emotional at the moment. Now you just have a memory of it and say, oh yeah, I used to have an emotional reaction to that. I don't feel it anymore. See, so similarly, I don't get dragged by that. But the fear comes up, or rather, the thought pattern comes up, and it used to be a fear. See, I'm using the word fear as an indicative of what's happening. So it's not a fear anymore. It's a thought pattern that used to cause fear, and it doesn't cause any fear anymore. Yeah, financial stability has been a big topic in my life, and I talked a lot about it because I feel that some people can benefit from these views and relate to it. Also coming out of the belief that we can make as much money as we want, and I think that's just not the most appropriate way to approach this. You can certainly make a lot of money, and that's fine. You can become a millionaire. That's all well and good, but that shouldn't be the reason why we do it. There should be an inherent abundant self that wants to manifest and do things, and if that is with money, then so be it, and if not, that's okay too. So there are so many things that can be talked about this, because I know it's a strong thing in many of our cultures. So I wanted to open this initiative in Patreon, and of course invite you, if you follow my message, if you have an affinity for my philosophy and the way I structure life. It's not only this. In Patreon, I have other things, like, for example, I want to start doing more group calls, which I started doing already. And the whole idea is just to have more things in there, because I appreciate the people who are supporting me in a disconnected way, you see, which is just on a platform where you subscribe, and I can benefit from this as well as you can benefit, because my idea is always to give back to the community. And this is one of the ideas that I have, and I want to make it flourish. So this is an invitation for you to join this platform and to be part of this, which I'm doing. I highly appreciate it, because like I said in my video, it's all about creating this reciprocity for me and being able to give back to you. So I think it's also fair to say that if you have joined the YouTube, I know in YouTube you can join and subscribe to my channel. It's probably better if you go to Patreon, because believe it or not, YouTube takes about 30% or more of the subscription, and I only get 70%. And it's the same amount, I think. It's only $5 to join in. So just take a look at it. Go to the description and check my Patreon, and in that way you can get more connected with me and have more questions. I run Q&As there. There's some other stuff. You get the low-off one before it comes out here on YouTube. So again, it's just catered for people who are really into this philosophy, this channel, which I have made for already 3 years, and I would be very grateful. Just join in, send me a message, and we can connect. So that's all I wanted to share today. I appreciate you for just being here. And if you can join Patreon, I would get to know you and we can interact with each other. So I hope to see you there. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next video.